Hey there, you awesome bipeds, quadrupeds, and even the occasional dinosaurs. It is I, Little Wolf, and welcome to my den. Go ahead and come on in, but please wipe your paws before entering, and go ahead and take a seat by the fire. And the cauldron is definitely bubbling now, so you can definitely have your choice of tea, coffee, or hot chocolate. And it is now December 25th where I am, and so I can finally say very happily, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I'm glad you're able to spend some time here in my den with me and just take a breather from the craziness of this day. Because we all need a breather on just about any day that ends in Y, and anybody who says otherwise, something might be wrong. And if there is anything wrong, you can always hit me up in either my Little Wolf's Den Discord or my Swordsmen Discord. And if you can't get a hold of me, you can definitely hit somebody up in there and hopefully talk to them about whatever is going on. But if you feel like you can't do that, you can always call the U.S. Suicide Prevention Hotline number, which is 1-800-273-8255. Once again, that's 1-800-273-8255. And if you don't feel like talking with your voice, you can always text them at 741-741. And if you're in any other country out there besides the US, you can always look up suicide.org/international-suicide-hotlines.html. So let's go ahead and sit back, relax by the fire, and I figured what a better time for Christmas than to sit down and listen to a quick ghost story, because we forget that ghost stories are a big part of the holidays also. And I did find you a pretty good one that I enjoyed reading, and I couldn't wait to record it and share it with you. Now this one is from 1931 by A.M. Barrage, and it's called Smee. And it says here, even the story's strange name gives a chill. As the tale unfolds, those chills only multiply. Like jokes, the trick of a great ghost story is not in the phenomenon it describes, but in the telling. Smee succeeds wonderfully in this regard. It's a layered tale that gives you all the particulars up front, yet the accumulation of the eerie details still delivers the chill, and the story's frightening climax is tailor-made for the specter's tale to be told around a warm fire. And this is a definite reason that I picked this story out, because I do have my fire going. So let's go ahead and sit down to a tale around the fireplace. And I hope you guys do enjoy this telling of Smee that I have done. Let's go ahead and sit back and see what happens in this tale. Smee by A.M. Barrage. No, said Jackson, with a shy little smile. I'm sorry, I won't be playing hide and seek. It was Christmas Eve, and there were 14 of us in the house. We had a good dinner, and we were all in the mood for fun and games. All that is, except Jackson. When somebody suggested hide and seek, there were loud shouts of agreement. Jackson's refusal was the only one. It was not like Jackson to refuse a game. Aren't you feeling well? Someone asked. I'm perfectly all right, thank you, he said. But, he added with a smile that softened his refusal, but did not change it, I'm still not playing hide and seek. Why not? Somebody asked. He hesitated for a moment before replying. I sometimes go and stay at a house where a girl was killed. She was playing hide and seek in the dark. She didn't know the house very well. There was a door that led to the servants' staircase. When she was chased, she thought the door led to a bedroom. She opened the door and jumped, and landed at the bottom of the stairs. She broke her neck, of course. We all looked serious. Mrs. Fennerly said, "How terrible! And you were there when it happened?" Jackson shook his head sadly. "No," he said, "but I was there when something else happened. Something worse." "What could be worse than that?" "This was," said Jackson. He hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "I wonder, have any of you played a game called Smee? It's much better than hide and seek. The name comes from It's Me, of course. Perhaps you'd like to play it instead of hide and seek. Let me tell you the rules of the game. Each player is given a sheet of paper. All the sheets except one are blank. On the last sheet of paper is written Smee. Nobody knows who's Smee except Smee himself, or herself. You turn out all the lights, and Smee goes quietly out of the room and hides. After some time, the others go off and search for Smee, but of course they don't know who they are looking for. When one player meets another, he challenges him by saying Smee. The other player answers Smee, and they continue searching. But the real Smee doesn't answer when somebody challenges. The second player stays quietly beside him. Presently they will be discovered by a third player. He will challenge, and no answer is given, and he will join the first two. This goes on until all the players are in the same place, and the last one to find Smee has to pay a forfeit. It's a good, noisy, and amusing game. In a big house, it often takes a long time for everybody to find Smee. Perhaps you'd like to try. I'll happily pay my forfeit and sit here by the fire while you play." "It sounds like a good game," someone remarked. "Have you played it too, Jackson?" "Yes," he said. "I played it in the house that I was telling you about." "And she was there? The girl who broke—" "No, said someone else. "He told us he wasn't there when she broke her neck." Jackson thought for a moment. "I don't know if she was there or not. I'm afraid she was. I don't know. There were 13 of us playing the game, and there were only 12 of us in the house, and I don't know the dead girl's name. When I heard that whispered name in the dark, it didn't worry me. But I'll tell you, I'll never play that game again. It makes me quite nervous for a long time, and I prefer to pay my forfeit at once." We all stared at him. His words didn't seem to make sense at all. Tim Belch was the kindest man in the world. He smiled at us. "This sounds like an interesting story. Come on, Jackson, you can tell us it instead of paying a forfeit." "Very well," said Jackson, and here's his story. "Have you met the Sangstons? They're cousins of mine, and they live in Surrey. 5 years ago they invited us to go and spend Christmas with them. It was an old house with lots of unnecessary passages and staircases. A stranger could get lost quite easily. Well, I went down there for Christmas. Violet Sangston promised me that I knew most of the other guests. Unfortunately, I couldn't get away from my job until Christmas Eve. All the other guests had arrived there on the previous day, and I was the last to arrive, and I was only just in time for dinner. I said "Hullo" to the rest of everyone I knew, and Violet Sangston introduced me to the people I didn't. And then it was time for dinner. That is perhaps why I didn't hear the name of a tall, dark-haired, handsome girl whom I hadn't met before. Everyone was in a rather hurry, and I'm always bad at catching people's names. She looked cold and clever. She didn't look all that friendly, but she looked interesting, and I wondered who she was. I didn't ask because I was sure someone would speak her name during the meal. Unluckily, however, I was a long way from her at the table, and I was sitting to Mrs. Gorman. And as usual, Mrs. Gorman was being very bright and amusing. Her conversations are always worth listening to, and I completely forgot to ask the girl with the dark hair her name. There were 12 of us, including the Sangstons themselves. We were all young, or trying to be young. Jack and Violet Sangston were the oldest, and their 17-year-old son Reggie was the youngest. It was Reggie who suggested Smee when the talk turned of games. He told us the rules of the game just as I described them to you. Jack Sangston warned us all. If you're going to play the game in the dark, he said, please be careful of the back stairs on the first floor. A door leads to them, and I've often thought of taking the door off. In the dark, a stranger in the house could think that they were walking into a room. A girl really did break her neck on those stairs. I asked how it happened. It was about 10 years ago before we came here. There was a party and they were playing hide and seek. This girl was looking for somewhere to hide. She heard someone coming and ran along the passage to get away. She opened the door thinking it led to a bedroom. She planned to hide there until the seeker had gone. Unfortunately, it was the door that led to the back stairs. She fell straight down to the bottom of the stairs. She was dead when they picked her up. We all promised to be careful. Mrs. Gorman even made a little joke about living to be 90. You see, none of us had known the poor girl, and we did not want to feel sad on Christmas Eve. We all started the game immediately after dinner. Young Reggie Saxton went around making sure all the lights were off, except for the ones in the servant rooms and in the sitting room where we were. We were all prepared, and 12 sheets of paper. 11 of them were blank, and one of them had Smee written on it. Reggie mixed them all up, and then we took one. The person who got the paper with Smee on it had to hide. I looked at mine and saw it was blank. A moment later, all the electric lights went out. In the darkness, I heard someone move quietly to the door. After some minutes, someone blew a whistle, and we all rushed to the door. I had no idea who Smee was. For 5 minutes, we were all rushing up and down passages and in and out of rooms, challenging each other, answering Smee, Smee. After a while, the noise died down, and I guessed that someone had found Smee. After some time, I found a group of people all sitting in the narrow stairs. I challenged and received no answer, so Smee was there. I hurriedly joined the group. Presently, 2 more players arrived, each one hurrying to avoid being last. Jack Sangston was the last and was given a forfeit. I think we're all here now, aren't we? He remarked. He lit a match, and looking at the staircase and began to count. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, he said, and I laughed. That's silly. 1 too many. And the match went out, and he lit another one and began to count. He got as far as 12 and then looked puzzled. There are 13 people here, he said. I counted myself yet. Oh, nonsense, I laughed. You probably began with yourself, and you are now counting yourself twice. His son took out his electric torch to give a better light than the matches, and began to count. Of course, there were 12 of us. Jack laughed. "Well," he said, "I'm sure I counted 13 twice." From halfway up the stairs, Violet Sankton spoke nervously. "I thought there was somebody sitting 2 steps above me. Have you moved, Captain Ransom?" The captain said he hadn't, but I thought there was somebody sitting between me and Mrs. Sankton. Just a moment there was an uncomfortable something in the air. A cold finger seemed to touch us all. For that moment we all felt something odd and unpleasant just had happened, and was likely to happen again. Then we laughed at ourselves and each of us, and we all felt normal again. There were only 12 of us, and that was that. Still laughing, we marched back to the sitting room to begin again. This time I was Smee. Violet Sankton found me while I was searching for a hiding place. The game didn't last too long. Soon there were 12 people and the game was over. Violet felt cold and wanted her jacket. Her husband went up to their room to fetch it. As soon as he had gone, Reggie touched me on the arm. He looked quite pale and sick. "Quick," he whispered, "I've got to talk to you. There's something terrible has happened." We went into the breakfast room. "What's the matter?" I asked. "I don't know. You were Smee last time, weren't you?" Well, of course I didn't know who Smee was. While Mother and the others ran past the west side of the house and found you, I was in the east. There was a deep clothes cupboard in the bedroom. It looked like a good place for hiding, and I thought perhaps Smee might be in there. I opened the door in the dark and touched someone's hand. "Smee," I whispered, and there was no answer, so I thought I'd found Smee. Well, I didn't understand it, but suddenly I had a strange cold feeling. I can't describe it, but I felt that something was wrong. So I turned on my electric torch and there's nobody there. Now I'm sure I touched a hand, and nobody could get out of the cupboard because I was standing in the doorway. What do you think? You might have imagined you touched a hand. He gave a short laugh. "I knew you were going to say that," he said. "Of course I imagined it. That's the only explanation, isn't it?" I agreed with him. I could see that he still felt shaken. Together we returned to the sitting room for another game of Smee. The others were all ready and waiting to start again. Perhaps it was my imagination, although I'm sure it was not. But I had a feeling that nobody was really enjoying the game anymore. But everyone was too polite to mention it. All the same, I had the feeling that something was wrong. All the fun had gone out of the game. Something deep inside of me was trying to warn me. "Take care," it whispered. "Take care." There was something unnatural, unhealthy influence at work in the house. Why did I have this feeling? Because Jack Sankton had counted 13 people instead of 12? Because his son imagined he had touched somebody's hand in an empty cupboard? I tried to laugh at myself, but I did not succeed. Well, we started again. While we were all chasing the unknown Smee, we were all as noisy as ever, but it seemed to me that most of us were just acting. We were no longer enjoying the game. At first, with the others, I looked around, but for several minutes no Smee was found. I left the main group and started searching the first floor at the west side of the house. And there, while I was feeling my way along, I bumped into a pair of human knees. I put my hand and touched a soft, heavy curtain. Then I knew where I was. There was a tall, deep windows, and with window seats at the end of the passage. The curtains reached to the ground. Somebody was sitting in the corner of one of the window seats, behind the curtain. Aha, I thought. I've caught Smee. So I pulled the curtain to one side and touched a woman's arm. It was a dark, moonless night outside. I couldn't see the woman sitting in the corner of the window seat. Smee, I whispered. There was no answer when Smee is challenged. He or she did not answer, so I sat down beside her to wait for the others, then whispered, "What's your name?" And out of the darkness beside me came a whisper, "Brenda Ford." I did not know the name, but I guessed who it was at once. I knew every girl in the house by name except one, and that was the tall, pale, dark girl. So here she was sitting beside me in the window seat, shut in between a heavy curtain and a window. I was beginning to enjoy the game. I wondered if she was enjoying it too. I whispered one or two ordinary questions to her and received no answer. Smee is a game of silence. It is a rule of the game that Smee and the person or persons who have bound Smee to keep quiet. This, of course, makes it harder for the others to find them, but there was no one else about. I wondered, therefore, why she was insisting on silence. I spoke again and got no answer. I began to feel a little annoyed. Perhaps she is one of those cold, clever girls who have a poor opinion of all men, I thought. She doesn't like me, and she is using the rules of the game as well as an excuse for not speaking. Well, if she doesn't like sitting here with me, I certainly do not want to sit with her. I turned away from her. I hope someone finds us soon, I thought. As I sat there, I realized I disliked sitting beside the girl very much indeed. That was strange. The girl seemed at dinner to have a likable disposition in a cold kind of way. I noticed her and wanted to know more about her, but now I felt really uncomfortable beside her. There was a feeling something was wrong, something unnatural, and it was growing. I remembered touching her arm, and I trembled with horror. I wanted to jump up and run away. I prayed that somebody else would soon come along. Just then I heard light footsteps in the passage. Somebody on the other side of the curtain brushed against my knees. The curtain moved to one side, and a woman's hand touched my shoulder. "Smee," whispered a voice that I recognized at once. It was Mrs. Gorman. Of course, she received no answer, and she came and sat beside me at once, and I felt much better. "It's Tony Jackson, isn't it?" she said, in a whisper. "Yes," I whispered back. "You're not Smee, are you?" "No, she's Smee on my other side." She reached across from me, and I heard her fingernails scratch a woman's silk dress. "Hello, Smee. How are you? Who are you? Oh, it's against the rules to talk. Never mind. Tony won't break the rules. Do you know, Tony, this game is beginning to annoy me. I hope they aren't going to play it all evening. I'd like to play a nice quiet game, all together beside the fire." "Me too," I agreed. "Can't you suggest something to them? There's something rather unhealthy about this particular game. I'm sure I'm being very silly, but I can't get rid of the idea that we've got an extra player, someone who ought not to be here." That's exactly how I felt, but I didn't say so. However, I felt very much better. Mrs. Gorman arrived and chased away my fears. We sat talking. "I wonder when the others will find us," Mrs. Gorman said. After some time, we heard the sound of feet and young Reggie's voice shouting, "Hello, hello, is anybody there?" "Yes," I answered. "And Mrs. Gorman is with you?" "Yes." "What happened to you? You both got forfeits. We've all been waiting for you for hours." "But you haven't found Smee yet," I complained. "You haven't, you mean? I was Smee this whole time." "But Smee is with us," I cried. "Yes," agreed Mrs. Gorman. And the curtain was pulled back, and we sat looking at the eye of Reggie's electric torch. I looked at Mrs. Gorman, and then on my other side. Between me and the wall was an empty place on the window seat. I sat up at once. I stood up, and then sat down again. I was feeling very sick, and the world seemed to be going around and around. "There was somebody there," I insisted, "because I touched her." "So did I," said Mrs. Gorman in a trembly voice, "but I don't think anybody could leave the window seat without us knowing." Reggie gave a shaky laugh, and I remembered his unpleasant experience earlier that evening. "Someone's been playing a joke," he said. "Are you coming downstairs?" We were not very popular when we came down to the sitting room. "I found them two sitting behind a curtain in the window seat," said Reggie. I went up to the tall, dark girl. "You pretended to be Smee and then went away," I accused her. She shook her head. Afterwards we all played games in the sitting room, and I was very glad. Some time later Jack Sangston wanted to talk to me. I could see he was rather cross with me, and soon he told me the reason. "Tony," he said, "I suppose you are in love with Mrs. Gorman, and that's your business, but please don't make love to her in my house during a game. You kept everybody waiting. It was very rude of you, and I'm ashamed of you." "But we weren't alone," I protested. "There was somebody else there. Somebody who was pretending to be Smee. I believe it was the tall, dark girl, Mrs. Ford. She whispered to me her name. Of course she refused to admit it afterwards." Jack Sankton stared at me. "Miss who?" he breathed. "Brenda Ford," she said. Jack put his hand on my shoulder. "Look here, Tony," he said. "I don't mind a joke, but enough's enough. We don't want to worry the ladies. Brenda Ford is the name of the girl who broke her neck on the stairs. She was playing hide-and-seek here 10 years ago." Alright, well, I hope you guys did enjoy that story, and I definitely had a good time reading it, and it brought back so many fun memories of me as a pup, because we had a game that was a lot like that, except it was called Sardines. And it's the reason why I did pick this story out to read to you, because it was so much fun to have those memories come back to me. And I want to be able to convey this story to you, and I hope you had a good time listening to it. It was so much fun to record, and so much fun to come up with the voice that I used to make the story come to life. And I hope I was able to give you guys a quick breather from this holiday. Yeah, my tongue still likes to not work. I hope I was able to give you a quick break during this holiday time, because I know we all need one, especially this day, because you have so much going on with either unwrapping presents, or making food, or making sure your friends and family are safe and having a good time, or even hosting a party, or whatever your plan is for the day. And even if it's just to sit back and relax and watch a movie or hang out or whatever, I hope I'm able to give you a nice break to be able to sit back, relax, and quiet your brain, because we all need that type of thing, especially now. And we have the new variant that's going around and striking a lot more. And so we still have to social distance. We still need to get our shots. We still need to wear our masks. we still need to do all of that to keep each other alive, safe, and healthy. So please do that. And if you did like this, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family who you think might need a break at this time of year. And I hope you guys had a good time, because I definitely did doing this for you. And this is why I do it, to have a good time and to share all of the stories that I find with you fine bipeds, quadrupeds, and dinosaurs. I have so much fun doing this. And I have so much fun reading your comments or whatever else it is that you tell me. It brings me so much joy and happiness knowing that I'm helping you guys have fun. And soon here next will probably be the vintage cartoons revisited, or maybe if I find a movie to review, I'll do that soon. But until then, we all live on one planet, so let's at least try and be civil. And until next time, be safe and be civil. I love all of you bipeds, quadrupeds, and occasional dinosaurs so much. Until next time, my friends. Wolf out. Yeah, I can read a story. I know good words. I'm bigly with words. I know what I'm doing. Come on.